Josh and Frankie. What a couple of dumb shits.
Hello, primates! You found Primus tracks. Congratulations. There are so many places to find Primus tracks. I recommend the podcast. That's what you're listening to right now. There are many other places such as Instagram, Threads. There are probably social media sites I've never heard of that have an account called Primus Tracks. You can look at them. You can look for them. Tell me what you find. I am Josh. I am one of the hosts of Primus Tracks. He also is a host of Primus Tracks. Unlike me on the ground floor, smelling the loam, smelling the dirt, feet in the earth, fingers coated in beautiful brown and red tones from digging around. He's on the 39th floor of Primus Tracks Towers. I think it's an ivory tower, and it's where he resides in all his glory. Frankie Bearstein.
Hey, Josh.
Welcome back once again, Frankie. We are now on track 2 of the album of Fungi and Foe from Les Claypool in the year 2009. And we should probably start tracking these in categories. We should track them as fungi tracks, foe tracks, and if it's neither one, I guess we have to invent a third category. Luckily, we haven't had to do that yet. Last week we talked about Mushroom Men, which clearly is a fungi track, and today we're talking about Amanitas, which sounds like a fungi track. So we're going to continue in the fungi box today. Couple things beforehand. We do have some miscellaneous debris for your ears. For those of you who don't listen to other podcasts or watch YouTube shows, congratulations, by the way, on that decision. Les Claypool, you may have heard his name before. He appears on the Rick Beato Show on YouTube. Rick is a longtime musician and producer who has in-depth conversations with all kinds of musical heavies. And it was Les's turn in the chair. Frankie, we got a good hour and 37 minutes of Rick and Les just shooting the breeze.
Quite a treat.
I assume you've watched it more than once already.
Once so far.
Okay. Anything jump out at you? Because you are a veteran of these interviews, and of course there are a lot of go-to Claypool lines and anecdotes and stories, which plenty of them surface in this episode with Rick. However, there were a lot of nuggets that I pulled that were new to me. So how was it for you as a veteran of the Claypool interview cycle?
Okay, first it was great to see Les pull out the pachyderm and perform some tidbits here and there. That was really nice to see. I guess what stood out for me the most was the possibility of Sesanta 3.0.
That's what you're taking from this?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising that they're still considering doing it once again.
Yeah, I have to go back and listen to how he phrased that and what tense he used, because I didn't know if he said we had talked about extending it to Europe or if we are talking about extending it to Europe. I don't know if that consideration has expired, but I suppose it's on the table.
That's what it sounded like to me.
Okay. Well, for our European friends who have not gotten to see Primus for years at this point, this may be your best shot. So perhaps it will come to fruition. So go check out Les on Rick Beato's show. Go to YouTube, search for Rick Beato, Beato, Les Claypool. I'm sure it'll come right up. I would say the nugget that I pulled from that, Frankie, was the guy whose name now eludes me, who had produced Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer wanted to produce Primus, and Les turned him down. He didn't give a year on that because he did relate that. He said to the guy, for Primus, we do our own thing. So that would tell me it would have been in maybe the early to mid 90s before Interscope pushed them to work with producers for Antipop. But perhaps it was in the 2000s for Animals or Green Naugahyde or something like that. Don't know. Can you imagine Primus with all kinds of lush orchestral arrangements or just weird synth weaving in and out of the tunes?
Did you also catch Les saying that he was taught how to play Thelag and Gingit correctly?
Yes, yeah, that he's he's been playing a lot of his favorite tunes wrong for years and years and years.
Did he say that it was Julie Sleek who taught him how to play?
Yes, yeah, he said the gal in Adrian Ballou's band corrected him.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that cool? And of course, the great Geddy Lee himself corrected Les on YYZ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty good stuff. But that's what happens when you learn by ear. You can be playing, as he noted, you can play the exact same notes, but you might be in a different position on the fretboard, and that can make a difference with tonality, so on and so forth. All right, let's talk Amanitas. That is our purpose here today. It is track 2 from your Of Fungi and Foe record from 2009. It checks in at 4 minutes, 27 seconds. Your credits are as follows, Frankie. Les Claypool, everything. Although I suppose we could credit Lapland with some percussion. So in here, we've got some electric bass with the envelope filter. We have an upright bass. We have all kinds of percussion. And of course, vocals. So everything on there is courtesy of Les Claypool. This is another Fungi track, Frankie, which means it has its origins in the Mushroom Men video game. Yes.
Okay.
So this is another product of storyboards and visuals and drafts, I suppose, of animations and backdrops and so on and so forth that would have inspired Les to create this track. For a taste of it, Frankie, let's go to the Mushroom Men soundtrack that's been on YouTube for, it says 16 years. So it's still available. Put it in the show notes if you missed it last time. This track is number 2 on the Mushroom Men soundtrack, and it is titled Mean Mr. Mushwoom. And I'm not saying that wrong because it's spelled Mush, W-O-O-M. I don't know if that's a typo, Frankie.
No, it sounds too specific, too intentional.
All right, let's hear what amounts to the instrumental version of Amanitas. Of course, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference because there aren't any vocals for the first minute and a half. So I'm going to forward to a part where there probably would be vocals, but you're not hearing any. Vocals, vocals, vocals. Sounds fully intact to me, Frankie.
Yeah.
Now, do you find yourself listening to these what amount to instrumental versions ever?
No, my go-to is the studio album.
Okay, so you need the vocals so you can sing along. You're not doing karaoke with the Mushroom Men version. I can't imagine too many karaoke libraries have the Mushroom Men songs in them, but that'd be pretty fun. Actually, on that note, there are, and I think I've mentioned this before, there are some Primus tracks that have been karaokefied, which means they have to be performed by other people as an instrumental cover so that they can be used in a karaoke machine at a karaoke bar legally. And those versions of like the Beaver song that I've heard are so far off, but it's just one of those, it's a product of these guys playing such wild stuff and out of the box stuff that somebody had to sit there and approximate it, and they did their best, but it doesn't sound anything like it. That poor guy that had to do Lur's guitar solos for Big Brown Beaver, man. This one, Frankie, we know the vocals were added later, of course, because this was originally for Mushroom Men. No vocals, as I noted, until a minute and a half into the track, which is unusual. Does this have an unusual live history at all?
No, it's actually quite consistent. It was performed throughout 2009 and 2010 in promotion of the Fungi and Foe record. It was performed once by the Fancy Brigade, which was an iteration created for New Year's Eve 2010. And then it was resurrected by the Frog Brigade 2 years ago for the Summer of Green tour and the fall extension. The Frog Brigade surprisingly performed it quite faithful to the studio version. while the Fungi band did improvise and jam a little towards the the ending of the song. I mean, the bridge that leads up to the final verse, that's where they sometimes explored the song, stretching it out a little bit.
So Frog Brigade played it fairly straight, and that's my recollection from the performance that I witnessed of it in 2023. Of course, it was augmented, having keyboards, guitar, and an actual drum kit on display or in the performance. So that was certainly an augmented version. I had to look back at my live history, Frankie, my own live history, and the Fungi Band did perform Amanitas when I saw them in 2009. I have plenty of distinct memories from that night, but Amanitas is not one of them. I don't know what it is about this track. Now, certainly it was a novelty in 23 with the Frog Brigade, but there's something about this track that I'm just not grabbing onto it because I didn't even remember that they had performed it. And as you well know, what the two of us do with our performances is we squirrel them away. We love every single one like they're little pearls, and that one just got lost in the shuffle for me. It is interesting that Les chose to bring this one back. And this was the only Fungi and Faux track that the Frog Brigade resurrected. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay, this was the one.
the one indeed.
Did they play it a lot in 23? I can't recall.
Not at every show, but consistently. Yeah, there are several performances.
And then going back to 2009, for one of our live tracks later, we have a performance from January of 2009, a couple months before the album was released. Was that or around the time they started performing it live?
It was actually premiered at a Jam Cruise show at the beginning of January 2009. I believe January 4 was the date when it was premiered.
Okay.
But then it was performed again until the album was released. So there's a gap between that show and the tour kicking off.
Oh, interesting. So that tells me that Les wanted to tease something because we know he does that.
Yeah.
So he was giving the Jam Cruise crowd just a little taste. Hopefully not of the actual Amanitas, because you don't need your audience rolling around on the ground having hallucinations, possibly projectile vomiting. I think he'd rather they were enjoying the music and paying attention,
Yeah.
not seeking medical care. So for me, yeah, there's no vocals for the first minute and a half of this track, which I think is defying an expectation a little bit, because usually you have your intro, you might have a preview of the main lick or the verse lick, and then you go into your verse. And so he actually does that here. We get the A B A B, but we don't get vocals, I think, until the second iteration of the B.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting that he decided to wait a while. So that is something that caught my attention because I was fully ready for the first verse. Now, remember, I haven't listened to this song in X number of years, 16 or something. I was fully ready, Frankie, for that first verse. When that B part came along, or that A part came along again, excuse me, and nothing happened in the vocal department. And then we had to go through the cycle again, and then there they were. So I appreciated that. I got a little chuckle out of that going. And I remember thinking, I know this song has vocals. Where'd they go? He makes us wait for those. Interesting bass lick. It certainly stays in the box. We've talked about those box riffs that'll play, and this one has the sound of one. It also kind of has the sound of a more modern Lesser Primus, less bass lick. I'm not saying it sounds exactly like something from CLD or exactly like the Little Lord Fentanyl bass lick, but they're in the same ballpark for me. Because he's got this shape, he plays this lick, and he stays in there, and it's kind of got a little bounce to it, you know?
And
Uh,
and it's interesting because early on he pretty much reveals the hook of the song without the vocals. So that's an interesting trick that I
Yeah.
have heard in several songs when you hear a riff or a hook, but then it makes sense once the chorus kicks in.
Yeah. And that tells me that, of course, he's not writing pop songs, of course, but it's sneaky of him to do that because I it set up an expectation and then he dashed it. It was a bit of a rug pull, and I like that. I like that I like the unexpected in my music. So that is one little piece of this track that I appreciated. It got a smile out of me, which is funny
Also,
because it was
yeah,
the absence of something that pleased me.
also the envelope filter makes the track delish.
I wasn't going to say anything about that, but it is present on this track. Yes. You know, I've talked about that this album did not grab me in 2009. And I think one thing that worked against it, at least for this track, was the inclusion of the envelope filter, because by 2009, I was burnt on it as far as listening to Claypool solo stuff and the Frog Brigade and some live shows and that sort of thing. So it worked against my enjoyment of this track at the time. Now, it's just one of the, it's one of those things where I'm just inured to it now, Frankie. It's like the whining of your 15-year-old cat who's been whining at you for 15 years. You know, you've
Okay.
that's a long time. You just get used to it, you tune it out. It doesn't bother you anymore. So I like that I'm comparing the envelope filter to an old whiny cat. So what I'm getting at is it doesn't bother me anymore because I'm just so used to it. It doesn't even register. I know it's there, but it doesn't have the same effect. But I know you're a fan of it. Is that something that hooked you right away when you first heard this record and this song?
Um, I mean, I love that it has the envelope filter, but no, I think what hooked me instantly with the song is the change of tempo on the intro.
Ah, okay. Yeah, we do get an interesting vibe from that. And what really gets me is that the kind of the marching part. The I can feel your poison. I think that's the chorus.
Yeah.
That part it becomes a march, and that's probably my favorite part of the tune. But it alternates. We get the march, we get the verse. Excuse me, which has a much different vibe to it. And I wasn't really tracking tempo, so there could be a change that I was unaware of. But certainly, parts of this tune are pretty catchy. I wanted to forward to a couple of my favorite parts here. I should probably press the right button. There it is. That is not my favorite part. Silly. I can't remember where it is. Hopefully it's right around here.
Not be told. Should not be ivory off your tower. And then she'll glower.
Yeah. So that is roughly my favorite portion of the tune there, that about that 30 seconds, 40 seconds. And the reason for that, Frankie, is one, there's some compelling vocal deliveries, and I would say more so than the previous track for me. And then the embellishments with the upright, and just I don't know. That march is a bit hypnotic, and I think that plays into the theme of the tune as well, with the hallucinating having consumed Amanitas mushrooms. So it certainly that part evokes a fair amount for me, and it captures my interest. Where I think it loses me, where it lost me back then, was that it turned right around and went back into the other part. Whereas where that hypnotic, psychedelic upright entered the fray, I feel like that could have been stretched out. and he really could have taken us places. And I think that would have grabbed me more at the time, and I think now too. I think there's more space for that. However, this was a tune that was written for a video game, and he had a certain vision for that, as opposed to a certain vision for something on this record, if that makes sense. Because he essentially brought over what he had made for the video game and adapted it for the vocals to that, as opposed to reworking it, stretching it out, whatever. But I think there were opportunities for that. I don't know if we've gotten an extensive weirdo upright solo before or ever, really, that really stretches out and takes us out into space. On a record, that is. We get some of that live, which is always a treat.
It really adds to the track. Yes, it's it's a remarkable addition, and it translated so well with the Frog Brigade because Sean was emulating the part with his guitar, and since the first time I ever heard the song, that's what immediately came to my mind. I thought that would sound great on a guitar. It's just this really evocative line. It's eerie and compelling.
Yeah. And it also just provides a different register from the bass and then those pounding percussion notes. And it gives a chance to breathe, I suppose, or experience something that might be melodic. But at least it's in a different register. It's that upper register that you, I don't know, I guess look for to counteract the bass. So that's, I think it comes in as a relief of sorts. I would imagine, of course, Sam Bass is the one taking that on with the Fungi band in 2009 and 10 for that part. Vocal deliveries too. One of my favorite things that Claypool does is just doing those voices, right? So the knock the ivory off your tower, yeah, that sort of thing. Great, love it. Like that gives his songs so much personality. As opposed to a straight-ahead delivery. Now, sometimes a straight-ahead delivery is appropriate, but I think in this situation where somebody has consumed a mushroom and they're seeing things and it's hurting their head, they're going to hear voices too. So why not trip it out a bit? Mm-hmm. So there's some good stuff. He's going between the bullet mic and the clean. And then even just that line, "I can feel your poison," is unusual, I think. For a Claypool vocal line, we don't get a lot of first person at all throughout his lyrics, so that is unexpected again, and it's almost as poppy a vocal hook as you ever hear from him, because it's a simple line and it's something that a lot of different artists might choose to use as a hook. As opposed to something like, "It's just a matter of opinion," that's a Claypool thing, right? Not too many people are going to come up with that for their vocal hook. So, or "Mr. Crinkle," or whatever, right? So that one is a bit more, that one just feels like a bit more common phrasing. But for him, it's unusual. So once again, it's a bit of a surprise. So I am finding a few things in here, Frankie, that are capturing my interest. Now, big picture for you. Where does this sit on the record for you? Because it's the second track. It's only the second song we've talked about. You said Mushroom Men ranks pretty high for you. Are we ascending on the record right now when we get to the second track for Amanitas?
This is easily top 5 material. Prime by 29 is my favorite at the moment, but I think, Amanitas is definitely my second favorite on the album. And it's the one that I've returned to the most. It just fits so well with the rest of the catalog.
Was that true before the Frog Brigade brought it back in 23?
Yes, it always stood out for me. I just love the bass line and the tempo and the overall atmosphere that it evokes with the instrumentation and the lyrics.
Yeah, for sure. And we should talk about those lyrics because they certainly mark some continuity between Mushroom Men and Amanitas, the two tracks, because Amanitas are mentioned, of course, in the first track on the record, and now the second track on the record is titled Amanitas, for crying out loud. So I think that continuity, he's nodding to the source of these tunes, which is that Mushroom Men video game. But he's also, taking his own, taking his own path with this. And so Amanitas, for those unaware, have psychoactive properties, which is the basis for this tune, if you haven't read the lyrics. And they're all over creation, Frankie. There are European and Asian varieties. There's North American varieties. What they all have in common is that big bulbous top that's usually a bright color with white adornments. I don't even know what to call them. They just look like giant snowflakes, kind of, on the on the outside of the bell there. And don't eat them, please. Nobody, do not eat them. I was reading about them because I remember hearing about them being killer mushrooms, but they're not actually killer mushrooms. I think if a small child, what I read is if a small child ingests a massive amount of them, it could kill a small child. But an adult such as myself can ingest a whole bunch of them and just get really sick and see a lot of weird stuff and then feel really lousy for a long time. Which, if I want to get really sick, see a lot of weird stuff, and feel lousy for a long time, I'll just go down to my local pub. So it's a lot easier than running around the woods looking for those things. So what's interesting about the lyrics to me, Frankie, is that he seems to be hinting that somebody who could not help themselves and took a bite of these mushrooms is being humbled by the experience. And usually when somebody's being humbled, it's due to their own hubris. In this case, the person's being humbled by their lack of self-control. The line being, when Amanitas came, he could not abstain, and he took a juicy bite. And so this guy cannot help himself, and he is going to be humbled by that lack of self-control. I really like the couplet. He found that he could see the forest beyond the trees. That is, first of all, I mean, we're talking about mushrooms running around in the woods. We talked about it with Mushroom Men. This is a very natural setting, dark forest type setting. And the instrumentation, I think, holds with that. Now, have you heard the expression, see the forest through the trees, Frankie?
I heard the expression, see the forest before the trees.
So
or for the trees.
Yeah, so he can't see the forest for the trees. Is often used to describe somebody who can't see the big picture.
Exactly.
And they get caught up in the small details. So they can't see the entire forest because they're looking at these two little trees of really no consequence or very little consequence. So that metaphor, can't see the forest for the trees, is being extended here by Claypool in the lyrics. He found that he could see the forest beyond the trees. And so he's like seeing into another dimension, right? Which really tracks with the hallucinogenic properties or psychoactive properties of these mushrooms. She squeezed his head real tight. And these are all the things that are happening to him. She squeezed his head real tight. She'd sucked him dry of all his power. I'm skipping around in the lyrics, of course. She'll knock the ivory off your tower. I really like that play on words too. The ivory tower metaphor has been used for ages, to indicate somebody who believes they're above someone, socially, socioeconomically, you name it. And so I love the idea, she'll knock the ivory off your tower. Once again, you will be humbled by this experience.
I always found it curious that the verse is an observation in third person, but the line about the poison is recited directly at the character.
Yes. And that has caught my attention too, because it's all in third person. He knew he'd changed his luck. He was barely alive. She'd sucked him dry of all his power. And then, I can feel your boys. So it's very interesting. It's as if we're getting a narration shift to the first person, which you'll see in, novels and other media where the perspective shifts. It's very interesting that it shifts between verse and hook or chorus here. The other thing that is curious to me is that the mushroom is presented with the feminine pronoun she.
Yeah.
That she is doing this to this guy. So I've always found that interesting. I think it's a way of differentiating. I don't think there's any coded messages there, but if one wanted to do the legwork, they could make some conclusions that I would probably say are erroneous. But he's doing something he shouldn't be doing, and he's paying for it. But it is interesting to personify the mushrooms as she, squeezing his head and so on and so forth, making him pay for what he did. Last verse, Frankie. Now, with your trousers full of spores, he has used the word trousers over the years, and the word trousers. There was a writer for The Simpsons and Futurama whose name is eluding me right now, Ken something. And on one of the DVD commentaries, he said the word underpants is 17% funnier than underwear. And that always stuck with me. And I got in the habit of saying the word underpants instead of underwear. And it turns out I haven't done an empirical study, but I think he's right. And I'm saying this because I've started using the word trousers over the past couple of decades as opposed to pants. Trousers is a certain percentage funnier than pants as well. So when I see the word trousers, I get a little giggle. Now, with your trousers full of spores, you get down on all fours to search the ground like hungry oxen. Really interesting first of a couplet there. Because to fearless fungus friends, some alliteration, your kinship has no end till they pump you full of toxin. So something is going on with these mushrooms. But it's really interesting. It reminds me of the story of the scorpion and the dog, where the scorpion says, "Hey, dog, give me a ride across the river." And dog's like, "All right, you're not going to sting me if I do this, right?" And scorpion says, "No, of course not." And then once they get across the river, the scorpion stings the dog. Dog says, "Why'd you do that?" Scorpion says, "It's in my nature. Couldn't help it." And so I think I see something analogous here with fearless fungus friends. First of all, fearless fungus friends sounds like fearless flying frogs. But the fearless fungus friends, they're your friends until they pump you full of toxin when you get down on the ground. So they're your friends when you're standing upright, but when you get down on the ground, not so much. They, I suppose, reveal their true nature. Now, is that what he was going for? I have no idea, but that is where my mind goes. What are you getting from these lyrics, Frankie, aside from a tale of humility based on somebody not helping themselves around delicious-looking mushrooms?
I think the lyrics are doing a great job honoring the faux portion of the album's title.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because this is this is a Fungi song because that's where it came from. But we have faux type lyrics. Please continue.
Yeah, I mean, with Liz, we have tragic figures throughout his catalog, right? We have some very curious characters here and there, not necessarily tragic, but certainly unusual or atypical. But here we have our villain, Amanitas.
A villain that doesn't move. It just sits there on the ground and beckons, I suppose. That's an interesting idea that it is fungi and faux in this track. So we should have a fourth category then. We've got fungi, faux, unknown, which will probably be renamed, and now we have a fungi and faux category. You had to go and make it even more complicated. I appreciate that. It's time for Primate's Takes. If you want your take on the track that's up for discussion, included right here on the podcast, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/PrimeAsTracks. There are a lot of tiers of support over there, but the universal constant is Primate's Takes. We have a few today, Frankie. Our first is from Ethan from Kentucky, a new entrant into the Primatron ranks, who says, "This is one of my favorites on the album. The bass and the way Les narrates in this song really sticks out to me. Still not my favorite album, but I'm starting to come around." Frankie Brooks Delight breaks it down as follows. "A fun little journey that I really don't take very often. I like it, I sing along, but I just don't visit much." Deep. Eric in Australia, who once again has turned into the happiest guy on the block, says, a pretty simple bass dirge, getting down in the odoriferous loam. And our pal John Shreve says, this turn from the buildup of Mushroom Men is like after peaking and coming down. When Amanitas came, it left his brain feeling a tad bit sour. To me, it is like psilocybin with gin, whilst dehydrating yourself like you mean it. This is a song that resonates. Sounds like John Shreve has had some fun over the years. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
What's going on here?
I'll tell you what's going on here. Disembodied voice of my friend Tim Soya. It's live cuts of Amanitas. Frankie has given us 3 live cuts today, all of which are available, by the way, on Toasterland. You can go check these out, as opposed to them being from his secret box sets with no metadata, in which I receive thousands of complaints. First live track, Frankie, is the aforementioned Jam Cruise 7, January 4, 2009, Fungi Band on a cruise ship.
Incredible.
Drums sound big. Oh my. This pulses. Wow. This feels much more driving than what's on the record, Frankie. Interesting. Is that something that I think the Frog Brigade was doing that too? It certainly had a pulse to it that superseded what's on the record. Did you find that helped endear the song even more to you? Because I'm starting to feel it a little more of that pulse, that tempo, and that instrumentation.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But the thing about the live renditions, great as they are, is that there's certainly compelling percussion, but what I really like about the studio cut is that if you listen closely, there's some relatively complex hi-hat work there in the hooks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a hi-hat or if he's just playing around with some kind of like one of those foot cymbal things like he has for Do It a Twang.
Oh,
I can't really tell. I think it's just one of those, or maybe it's a tambourine or something. But
it adds a great touch to the song for sure.
Oh yeah, I agree. It just adds that different register, so you can feel things ratcheting up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to May 23rd, 2009, Chillicothe, Illinois for summer camp. I think we were here for Mushroom Men. Well, we're back, summer camp. R.I.P. Let's hear some cello. All right, so we're stretching out here. Sam always got really cool sound on his cello. Sounded great. I'm going to move forward a bit so we can also sample Vibraphone. Oh, they brought it down. This is great. It's like he's doing a Mellotron impersonation. Ah. I always appreciate Mike Dillon. Mike Dillon, we
see-
salute you.
So, did you hear what I meant with them taking the song places after the second hook?
Yeah, you bet. That cello outing as well as vibraphone, and then Les kind of just dropping them down in volume, as well as really simplifying his bass line to slow things down for Mike was very cool. Yeah, this is a 7-minute rendition, so they're stretching it out here. We got one more, and this is Pompano Beach, Frankie. May 30th, Pompano Beach, Florida. This one is about 6 minutes.
So this is an old Van Halen song.
Hey, of course, you got to start it with that. You know what I think I'm equating this to in my mind is it's like with this march part, because I was saying like that first part, that box riff, very reminiscent of some more recent Lesson Primus tracks, or at least from 2009 onward. But then this part, this B part, just makes me think of Golden Ticket. So just like kind of that bounce from Golden Ticket is I'm hearing that here. So I'm not saying they're identical, but certainly reminiscent for me, and that's okay. Interesting live cuts, Frankie. This one, like I said, no real memory of it from 2009, and I think I forgot to say that when they played it in 23, Frankie, I couldn't place it. I knew it was a Fungi track, but I couldn't remember the name, and I overheard somebody nearby me saying Amanitas, and that's what prompted me to remember. So it had been so long at that point, I couldn't even remember the name of the track. So gotten it twice now, and I might have to revisit some of these to listen to these live cuts. I think the live cuts is where I am going to find more rewarding listens to see how they took it out. Final thoughts on this one?
I was thrilled I caught it at Westbury. They did perform this one right before my eyes, and just after they had wished happy birthday to one of the crew members, and then Les launched into Amanitas, which tell me that it's someone's favorite somewhere behind the scenes. And the studio version, I think it's just immaculate, and that's something that I return to very often when I'm listening to random songs here and there. So I think Amanitas is one of the strongest on the album, and I'm glad the video game exists if it's what had to happen in order for these songs to exist further down the line.
Yeah, remember these first two songs were part of the effort to build cachet with his kids. so we're hearing that product right now. I guess that's it for Amanitas. So I'll say this, Frankie, stay out of the forest, because the Amanitas have been tracked. Next time, Frankie, we're gonna meet a red state girl.
Self-proclaimed bona fide.
He's bona fide. Primates, primatrons, people of Earth, thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you next time, whether it's fungi or foe. Later days.
Willie Mays.